All right, so let's do a little rehash of what we talked about the other day. We talked about creating variables. So we said that variables are boxes for storing things, for storing data, for use in our program. And we can create many different variables in a single program, however many we need to do whatever it is we need to do. So the first thing we need to do to create a variable is declare a data type. All right, so the data type we looked at the other day was int. All right, so int is for whole numbers. Well, now that I'm typing on my keyboard, you can see that IntelliSense brings up a bunch of other stuff. Just select int. As a 32-bit integer, it has plenty of space to store all the whole numbers you need to store. Okay? So, can everybody see that okay? All right, so once we've got int, and notice I declared it up at the top of main, so I'm within the curly braces of main here. And I do my variable declarations up top. That's a traditional place to do it. You actually can declare them in other places as well. But anyway, so int, and then space, and I'm going to give it a name, and let's just do sum. All right, so sum would be the name for that variable. So int sum semicolon, that is a valid variable declaration. So declaration just means we're creating a variable, right? So variable declaration. Now the reason why it's got a squiggly under it is because I haven't actually used sum for anything yet. So that's what it says. The variable sum is declared but never used. So that'll go away once you actually use it for something. Visual Studio just does that for you to remind you of things, to bug you. Okay, so let's see, sum. So what do you think that's going to be for when I look at that name? I would say doing an addition and storing a value. So sum, you're doing addition, right? So that, looking at that variable, I know what it means, right? So we want descriptive variable names. Also, camel case. We talked about using camel case for variable names as well. So like so sum, it's all lowercase, but if I were to have other words like sum of stuff, I'm just making that up. It's camel case. Every word after the first one begins with a capital letter. Okay. So go back to that. All right, so that variable declaration, that's fine. Fine. But at some point we want to put something in sum, and to do that we do what? I just give the name of the variable, and then the assignment operator, right? Okay. So sum assigned, and then whatever I want to assign to it. I could just do like 8, just like that. Okay. So that'll work. So that's a declaration and then doing an assignment right here in line 15. Or I can also do this in one shot, like so. So I can declare sum and initialize it in the same line. Okay. Now if I want to declare multiple variables, the way that we looked at different ways of doing it the other day, but I'm just going to do this, operand 1, assigned, I'll just make up numbers, 7, operand 2, it's going to be 8. Pleasure. Alright, so what I'm doing here is I'm declaring 3 different boxes, 3 different variables. They're all separate spaces in memory. They have no relationship to each other, but they all happen to be of data type what? Int. Yeah, so they're all int. So I can do a comma separated list. All right, so sum, comma, operand, comma, and so on and so forth. All right, so in that example, I just happened to not assign anything to sum. I could have. I didn't have to assign anything to anything, but I did here. Okay. So there's different ways of declaring and assigning. All right, so then we can do stuff like sum assigned operand 1 plus operand 2. All right, so that's perfectly valid. So what it's going to do is look inside operand 1, see that there's a 7, look in operand 2, see there's an 8, add them together to make 15, and plug that into sum. And operand 1 and operand 2 don't change because we're not doing an assignment. The only time we change a value stored in a variable is when we do an assignment. All right? Let's see. All right, so let's see. Well, one other thing we could do just to show you. I could have also done this. These would be integer literals. 7 and 8 would be literals. So operand 1 and operand 2 are integer variables, but 7 and 8 themselves are literals. I could do something like that. It's not very useful, but it just shows. I'm just showing you can actually do it. Grabbing things from variables is much more useful. Okay. Now, what else can we do? We can do things like, at some point we're probably going to want to see something. Let's just pull that up. So, of course, I got my console read key down there, like I always do at the end of main. So to print out, I can print out sum console.write line, and then to print out sum, I can just do that. All right. So all that's going to do is print out 15. So all you're going to see on the console is 15 if I do start here. And eventually 15, right? So we don't really see much. Now I can make this prettier. I can say something like this. All right, so what's that going to do? That, in this example, I am using what's called string concatenation. I don't think we've talked about it yet. But what I'm doing is, right here is a string literal, so I just made that up, right? You can actually put whatever you want. And then I'm using a plus sign right here. And so I've got a string literal over here. So anytime I have a string on either side of a plus operator, it's going to do concatenation. So what concatenation means I'm going to tack something onto the end of something else, all right? So in this example, what I'm going to do is take what's stored in sum and tack that on to the end of the sum is. Right? And you're not going to see it, but it's going to make a big string that's going to get printed out by write line. So if I look at the results of it, I see, wow, well, that's really hard to see on here, but it says the sum is 15. Okay? Trust me. All right? Also notice here that I have a couple of spaces, so that's normal after colon to put a couple of spaces. If you don't, what do you think is going to happen? Yeah, it's just going to run it together. Space there actually is something. It's just not something empty. I mean, there's actually a character there, but that says the sum is 15 all bunched together. Okay? So you want to make sure when you're doing stuff like that that you take care of your spaces. Okay. I can also do other things. I can make it. I can make the concatenation longer. So let's see. The sum. Let's do this. Of operand 1 plus trying to get this all. Let's do. You can actually do this on one line. I'm trying to spread it out. Yeah, let me pull it up. And let's do it like this. Okay, something like that. All right, so there I'm concatenating multiple things. All right, so the first thing I have is the sum of. And since that's a string, that plus operator is going to do concatenation. Not addition, but concatenation. So whatever value is stored in operand 1 will get tacked onto the end of that. And then over here we have a plus operator. Now this plus operator, what is this? Is it concatenation or something else? All right, well, that's something else. All right, so this is actually a string literal. It's in double quotes. So this plus right here has nothing to do with concatenation. It's just a character that's going to print out on the screen. Okay. Notice how it's that orangish reddish color. Okay, meaning it's a string literal. Well, these pluses that do concatenation are white, so that's a hint, at what the difference is. So when I have it in double quotes like this, it's just the plus that's going to print out on the screen. So to make my, the output look nice. Okay, I'll show you in just a second. Then, so now we're going to concatenate on the value of operand 2, whatever value stored in there. And then we're going to concatenate on this is, and then finally the value in sum. So you see how we're building a big string out of all those. And this goes on behind the scenes. You really don't see it taking place. Okay, but what you do see is the final output. So if you can see, the sum of 7 plus 8 is 15. All right, so see how I did that? So that's a way to make your output fancier. Any questions about that? All right, so there's actually a newer way of doing this called string interpolation, which I prefer for most things. Now, string concatenation's been around forever. String interpolation is something newer. So you need to know you need to understand concatenation. It's still useful for a number of things, but so with string interpolation, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with a $sign right before our double quote, okay? And then we're going to do our string basically like this, the sum of, I'm going to do the same exact thing using string interpolation. So these two lines are going to have the same output. The sum of, and what I'm going to do here is use curly braces, like so. So what I'm doing here, instead of using those pluses, anything that I want to be evaluated as a variable, I put curly braces around it. So the sum of, grab the value in operand 1, plus, and then let's grab the value in operand 2. Okay? And what else do we have? All right, is, and then grab the value in sum. And then close out the string, just like so. The money sign, that tells C# that you're doing string interpolation. So you always do the $sign, and then you have your opening double quote, and then the string you want. And it's usually a lot easier than doing concatenation. That was so much easier to type out and to format and make sure everything's in the right place. It's so much easier to do it this way. Okay? So again, and the curly braces, like I say, they make it treated like, that tells C# that you want to evaluate that as a variable. If I didn't put curly braces around that, notice operand 1 now is red. So it's just a string. It's just literally going to print out operand 1 in that place. So to have a variable evaluated, put the curly braces. Not parentheses, but curly braces. Okay? Now if I press start, then we see print out the exact same thing. Okay? So use whichever one. I mean, normally, just pick one and go with it. Like I say, concatenation is still useful for some things, but I mostly use string interpolation myself these days. All right? Any questions? Any questions about that? Okay. Let's see. All right, well, let's move on to a different data type then. So the data type we have here is int. So that will cover all whole numbers. We also have floating point numbers, or also in math called real numbers. So you may know them by one or the other. So everybody know what a floating point number is? A real number? So it has a decimal point in it. All right, so any number that has a decimal point and then is going to have one or more characters on the left of the decimal and one or more on the right. Okay? So like pi, 3.14. So that has, one character on the left and then two on the right, and a decimal. 0.0, if I write it like that, C# treats that as a floating point number. We can also have negative numbers. We could also leave the 0 on the left out, like for instance, let me just show you up here. Like if I wrote 0.125, that would actually be valid. The 0 is implied on the left, okay, but that's a valid floating point number. So we can have very small numbers, we can have negative numbers, all sorts of things. All right. So basically anything where you're dealing with a fractional part, you want to use a floating point type. Anything where you're dealing with whole numbers, you'll generally want to use an int. Now to do floating point types in C#, we got to learn a new data type, and the one we're going to use is double. Okay, so double, there's also float and decimal, but we're going to concentrate on double. Okay? That's big enough to hold everything we need, and it makes life easier too using doubles. All right, so we start out with the data type, and we're going to just like with an int, it's just going to work just the same way. All right, so double, and then maybe let's say price. All right, so obviously price, we're dealing with money, right? So we're dealing with money, we could have like values like $7.99, that sort of thing. So we want to use the double for that. Okay. Notice that I can declare ints up here and then doubles down here, so I can mix up my declarations. All right, no problem with that. Let's get rid of some of these things. I can declare all kinds of different data types in my program. Remember, each box, the data type determines what it can hold. So price can hold floating point values. Sum, operand 1, operand 2, they can only hold whole numbers. They cannot hold any floating point types. And let me do this. Let's go back to number of books. So there's that variable. All right. And then, of course, I can assign a value. Let's say I want to do that. Just go ahead and initialize number of books to 8. I'm just making these things up. So let's just imagine we have 8 books. Let's also, we can declare, or we can initialize price just like we saw how to initialize integers. Like for instance, price we could say is assigned, I don't know, let's say $3.99. Okay. Even though we know that it's money, we're not going to put a dollar sign because that would be invalid. Okay. You can't put a dollar sign in it. If you actually want to put a dollar sign in something, we have to look at something else. So we're just going to put straight numbers. But we know that it represents money because it says price, right? Of course, I could also initialize it after the fact. So like price is 3.99. However you want to do it. However you want to do it in your particular program. Okay? All right, so any questions about declaring doubles so far? Let's go ahead and also say, let's declare a double called total. Now notice how I align that. I generally like to line all my variables up like this, so each one under the other. Okay, but I didn't have to. Like this space, C# doesn't care about this. It's totally up to you. As a matter of fact, you can even do this. I mean, I could do everything on one line if I wanted to. All right, and since I'm not doing any initializations, that's not a bad way to do it. All right, not trying to confuse you, just showing you different ways of doing it. All right, so at this point, I've got, let's say, number of books is an integer variable with the number 8 in it. Okay, and price and total are doubles. Price has something in it, total does not. So I might want to put something in total. So to do that, I just give the name, and then of course if I want to change the value stored in it, I use the assignment operator. Okay, so anytime I want to change the value stored in a variable, I use the assignment operator. So total is going to be, let's just say, number of books. Question? Oh. Let's see, number of books, and let's say times, I don't think we talked about multiplication yet, but to do multiplication in C#, you're going to use the asterisk. And it works just the way multiplication in math does. So number of books times price. And that is valid. Okay? So that will take that integer number of books, multiply it by price. Now the result, what we're going to get when we multiply these two things together is, so that's an int and that's a double, and we can do that, no problem. But the type that's going to result from doing this is going to be a double. like doubles have precedence over ints. Okay, so any operations involving doubles and ints, the double, like I say, kind of has precedence. So the resulting data type of this is going to be a double, and fortunately, total is a double, so that works. I have to make whatever this side results in, whatever data type, has to match the data type on the left. All right, and so they do. So they even out, and so we're good. Now, if we did something like this, though, let's say, let's just do this for a minute. Let's say we messed up and declared total as an int. All right, now you see that it goes haywire. All right, it says cannot implicitly convert type double to int. Cannot implicitly convert double to int. So what implicit means is it is automatic. Basically, it cannot automatically convert this double. So this results in a double, and I'm trying to put it into an int. A double will not fit into an int. Right? A double has too many parts. So it has the whole number part on the left of the decimal, and then it has the decimal and the fractional part of it, so it won't fit. Now an int will actually fit inside of a double. Okay? Because a double can hold that whole number, and that's all it has to hold from an int. Right? That might sound a little confusing, but it'll become more clear as you practice. Okay? So just make sure, like I say, so the resulting data type over here is a double because of that price right there. I want to make sure that I also wind up with a double here as well to match it. So the right always needs to match the left. Okay? All right, so what that's going to do is calculate some value, and let's just, all right, so now we probably want to print it. I mean, we could do this. No problem doing that. Or we can make it look nicer and say, or let's say the total price. And let's put a colon just to make it look nice. Okay, so we do that. So I'm using string concatenation. I could have used interpolation also. Interpolation, well, maybe I should just start using interpolation. So interpolation, I would just turn it into this. And close. All right, sweet. So we don't have any red squigglies or anything. Everything looks good. Let's see what prints out. So 399 times 8, so that's 24, 20, see, 4, about 32. All right, so it says the total price is $31.92. Okay, so that should be good. Let's see if we can get, let's see if we can get a different value here. No, it's not doing it. All right, so you know, if there's no guarantee that it's going to print out to 2 decimal places doing this. All right, so the total that prints out on the screen in this manner, I mean, it could wind up having, you know, it could be, you know, like 32.8999, you know, whatever. All right, so it might have a bunch of digits out to the right of the decimal point, but since it's money, we only want 2 digits. So to control that, we can actually use a format specifier. So what's called a format specifier, and the one that we'll look at here is F. Oops, excuse me. So we're right after the variable name, we're going to do a colon, and I'm going to use F for floating point, and then I'm going to use 2 to specify the number of digits of precision. So 2 means I'm going to print out 2 digits past the decimal. No matter how many digits it wants to try and display, I'm going to force it to display 2. Okay? If I wanted 3 digits, I would just put 3, you know, or 4, however many I want to put for the application. You know, and there you go. And it will round too. So if it needs to round, it will, you know, round up or, you know, whatever. Now I might also want to put, since I'm talking about money, I might want to put a $sign. Okay. So that $sign is part of my string, right? Because it's in that orange red. So when I press start, it's going to print out. And if you can see, so I've got a $sign right there because of that $sign I placed in there. There's actually another format specifier though that I can use with money instead of F. I mean, F is fine, but if I just get rid of that $sign and also get rid of the F2. So F is the format specifier for floating point numbers, but C is for currency. C I can use for currency. And what that means is it's automatically going to print out a $sign and it's going to print to 2 decimal places. Okay? So it saves me a little bit of typing. And there you go. So there's 2 format specifiers, F and C. And there's more too, but we don't need to worry about them right now. Okay? Any questions about those? Far out. All right, now let's do something else. Let's get rid of that. Let's also get rid of this. Let's talk about getting user input. Okay? So it'd be nice if I don't have to hard code values into. So when I say hard coding, like before I put 399, I put 8. So I'm hard coding values into my code. It's not very flexible because it's always going to be 8 and 399 unless I actually come into my source code and edit it. All right, so that's no good. So normally what we want to do for an application like this is get input from the user. So we need to look at some new methods for that. So we got a console method. Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to prompt the user. So when we want to get input from the user, we want to tell them what it is they're supposed to type. Otherwise, how are they going to know, right? So I want to start with a console method. And this time I'm going to use write. I use write line a lot. If you remember the difference between write line and write line does an automatic new line return. Write does not. And if you are confused about what that means, you'll see in just a second here. So write, and let's say enter number of books, colon. So I'm going to do it like that. So there's my prompt. So we know that it's going to tell the user enter a number of books, so they know what to enter. Now the reason why I used write here though is because I want the cursor to appear right after the colon. I want it to appear on the same line as the colon on the console. Okay, so that when they type the number of books, it'll appear on that same line right after the colon. Also notice I have a couple of spaces here so that what they type doesn't appear right up next to that colon because it doesn't look good that way. All right, so now to get the number of books, I want to use another console method, read line. Okay, that's what we're going to use to get user input. Now, so I'm going to do it just like that. So what read line is going to do is it's going to sit there and wait for the user to enter something. And once they type what they type and they press enter, it's going to return something. Okay? So obviously I want to return that something that they type into what? What do I store things in? What do I store data in? Man, you were awfully talkative the other day. How about a variable? Or not. I mean, I'll do whatever you want. Anyone agree? Number of books. So if console.readline is going to return what they type, but if I don't put it in something, it's just going to disappear. It's going to vanish. Okay? I'll never see it. So I need to put it into a variable, or I could also just print it out directly. There's different things I can do, but here I'm going to store it in a variable. So what I'm doing is saying number of books is assigned whatever returns from console.readline. In other words, whatever the user typed in is going to be stored in number of books. That make sense? Okay. Now, notice the red squiggly. And let's see what it says. It says, cannot convert cannot implicitly convert type string to int. So that was similar to the message we saw previously where I had a mismatch between the right-hand side of the assignment operator and the left-hand side. The data types don't match, right? Console.readline returns a string, so think of that as a string. And this is an int. What's on the right needs to match the left, okay? But it's really easy to fix that. All we do is we're going to use another method, convert dot to int, and then we got to put a 32 on the end, like so. All right. That might look a little odd, but what's happening is, so here's my original console.readline, and it's two parentheses because it's a method. It has those parentheses. Well, convert.toInt32 is also a method, so it has a set of parentheses, but I put console.readline in those parentheses. So what do you think that means? It means take whatever console.readline returns, that string, and convert it into an integer. And why do I do that? Because I have an integer on the left-hand side of the assignment operator. So since this eventually becomes an int, and this is an int, both match, and everything's good. No complaining anymore. Okay? Now I'll show you real quickly, something else you can do that makes it easier for you. I'll just comment this out real quickly. Let's see. We haven't talked about string just yet, but I'll go ahead and do this. String. I'm just making up a variable, number of books as string, okay? And let's go ahead and do this. So I'm just making up this variable, console.readline. All right, so what that's going to do is console.readline is going to read the user input as a string, right? It returns a string. Plug it into that string variable. Now take the string variable just like that. Number of books. Okay. So these two lines right here do the exact same thing as this one line does here. But this might make it a little easier for you to understand initially. So again, readline returns a string. So I'm going to take that value and plug it into this string variable. Now I'm going to take that string variable and convert it to an int and store it in an int variable. Okay. Does everybody see how that works? Understand how that works? So again, it's all about making sure that what's on the right-hand side matches the data type on the left-hand side. Okay. I prefer this method right here, the one line, the single line. But if I were going to do that, I can comment these out. See, there's an example of the nice thing about comments. I can use them to comment out code. Not only just write comments to tell people what's going on, but also comment out code temporarily. All right? I don't have to remove the code. I just take it out temporarily. Because remember, comments are not compiled. They're ignored completely. Okay, so now we got number of books. All right, so whatever the user type is going to be in there. Let me also get rid of this real quick. Don't let me forget to talk about string variables. So now we've also got price. So what we eventually want to do is, this calculation we did previously. So we have something stored in number of books. We also need something stored in price. So let's get something from the user. So again, I really need to do more copying and pasting. So I'm going to do another prompt. Enter, let's just say book price. It can be whatever you want. Okay? And then of course, I'm going to follow the prompt with a console read line. Let's see, that's going into price. So I'm going to say price is assigned. Let's do console.readline. All right. So we got that problem. We got a string on the right. We got a double on the left. So what do you think we need to do? convert it to not an, well, no, I mean, that's a good guess. I was hoping somebody would guess that, but actually, but it's not an int. So, because price is a double. So there's another convert method that we'd use for a double, and it's convert to double. So when we want to convert something to an int, we use convert to int 32. When we want to convert something to a double, we use convert to double. Okay? So they make sense. I mean, they're great names. Convert to this, convert to that. All right? So that covers that. So what we wind up with over here is a double, and over here is a double, so everything matches. Okay? Now, so when we get down here to do our calculation, price has whatever the user entered, and then number of books has whatever the user entered, and we use that to calculate total. All right? Notice we don't get input for total. Total is calculated. There's no prompt, no console.readline for it. It's calculated, and then we print it out down here just like before. So if I run it, I wish there was a way to zoom this. Whoops. Wait a minute. Something happened. So it says enter number, excuse me, enter number of books. Let's just say 8 again. I'm just picking random numbers here. All right, so the next prompt says enter book price. Notice my cursor's on the same line. So price is, let's just say $10. All right, so, and then it calculates total price is $80. $80, 80.00. And that's it. That's how you get user input. It's that simple.
Could you go back?
Yes. Question?
I'm missing total.
Total.
So I'm missing like work calculator.
So I declare total here, and then I assign something to it down here in line 27.
Can I not put that where total is at the top?
Well, what would happen if you did that? So if I put this, like let's just say I did it right here, right? You see those red squigglies?
Yeah.
So I've declared price and number of books, but they don't have anything in them yet. So that's why you're getting those red squigglies. Use of unassigned local variable. That's what it says. So we're assigning to number of books down here and to price down here. That's actually a great question. I'm glad you asked that. Because remember, I mean, we can, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. Before I can use the variable, well, first of all, I got to declare it, right? And then below that, I can use it, all right? But before I can really use it, I got to stick something in it, okay? Because when I declare it just like that, I haven't put anything in it. If I declared it like this, like number of books assigned, go back to that, now I've got something in it. So I'd be good. Notice also that the squiggly went away on number of books because it has something in it. Now, price still doesn't. If I did this, like 5.00, now the squiggly goes away on price because I got a value in it. Okay? Everybody else understand that?
Okay. Now I have one more question.
Okay.
So now I'm trying to run it exactly how you have it. But it still says use of unassigned local variable.
Total. It says total. Oh, so in your case, what you've got this again on the wrong line. It needs to be above this. So here's where you're assigning the value to it, but so and that's down here. Here it's unassigned, so it needs to be above. Yeah, don't forget that. Yeah, everybody, that this code is executed from top down in order. So what he had was this. So he had So what was happening was total is being assigned something down here, but you're trying to use it up here. You can't. You have to put something in it first before you can use it. All right, so it says use of unassigned local variable. Okay. Let's see. Oh, and another. Well, let's see. Here's another example too.
What is the C for beside total? Where it says the total price is.
That's currency. That's the format specifier for currency. So what that means is it's going to print out a dollar sign and 2 decimal places.
As opposed to having to do the money sign and then two.
Correct. Yes. All right. So any other questions? Let me. Has everybody got what they want from here? All right. Let's see. So we did int, we did double. All right. Now, one really important data type we want to do is string. A string will hold basically anything that's on the keyboard. It'll hold letters. It'll hold numbers, punctuation. Different operators, even some hidden characters and things like that. Basically anything you think of. So string is very useful. To declare a string, we start with the data type as usual. So it's really just the same. So data type, space, and then the name for the string. Let's do this. First name. Okay? So I look at that variable and I know obviously that's going to hold somebody's first name. So that's going to have letters in it, right? So string would be appropriate. How about we could also do this? Okay, it's just making up another variable, street address. So a street address might have numbers in it. So numbers and letters, so something like that I can use a string for. Okay?
Or an email.
Sure, yeah, email. You got the @ symbol and dots and things like that. So yeah, pretty much anything you can think of too. I can also do like let's say SSN, Social Security number. I might have dashes in the Social Security number, or I might not. It might just be a number. That's okay too. All right. Strings will hold just plain numbers. They will hold numbers. But now the one thing to remember about numbers stored in strings is we can't use them for mathematical operations. Right? So we have to convert them, and we'll look at that in just a second. So those are just some examples. Gosh. All right. So let's say we want to get user input from the console. Let's do a prompt. And let's say enter your first name. Again, like that. It's pretty standard. Pretty standard format. We prompt, colon, 2 spaces, and then we do a console.readline. All right. And of course, I want to put that read line into something. So let's do an assignment over here. First name is assigned, just like that. No problems. Now, do I need to do a conversion here, though? Do I need to use a convert method?
No.
Why not?
If there's no numbers, there shouldn't be anything if you're gonna add it at all.
Well, you got a good point, but it's not exactly. What the reason why I don't have to convert anything is because readline. Remember, it returns a string, and what's my data type over here? It's a string. So the 2 sides match. So there's no reason to convert anything. So we only convert when there's a mismatch. Okay. You'll get used to it. It's easy. Now, a lot of times, what students will do though, there actually is a convert to string method. And they'll do this. Like so. And that's valid, but it's unnecessary. Because you're just taking a string, converting it to a string. There's no reason to do that. But I see it all the time. So remember, as long as the sides match. Okay. And there we go. um, well, actually, we're out of time. I'm sorry, folks. The fun is over for the day. You have to go home and enjoy the weekend or something.